talk to the legends of the creative and entertainment industries. We talk to those on the rise. Lance Steen Anthony Nielsen asks about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is Outcast Creative, and this is Industry Interviews.
Hello, welcome to the Outcast Creative Channel, Industry Interviews. This one is kind of personal to me, which makes it very special. Tonight I'm going to be talking to David Stretton-Downes, who's the twin brother of the late Jonathon Stretton-Downes, who was one of the producers who worked on my feature film, The Journey. Johnny came on in the post-production phase of the film, which was actually an absolute nightmare, and also got us all the sponsorship for the premiere itself. So his help was monumental in ensuring that the film got finished. Now, unbeknownst to me, he had been working on a documentary with his brother and other people about the health issues that he faced in his life. Rather than me prattle on and say any more, let's before I bring my guest in, let's watch the trailer for 6 Times Open. And if you haven't done already, please do share the stream because I want to get this documentary as much publicity as I can.
Playing the game is something that for maybe a heart patient is seen as more, should you be doing it, should you not? Little did I know that would be the start of the next chapter about my heart. David is my twin brother. The emotional aspect of him being able to just go and play cricket or go and play rugby, I found that quite difficult. I would stand there and go, actually, I would have loved to do that. Sorry.
When you're coming into an operation, you bring with you all the baggage from the previous operations. You know, people die on this ward. The doctors are trying to bring life, but people die.
The thoughts that go through your mind, you know, why has it happened to me? How does this look for the future? Unknown questions. You really want the answers to right now, and that can be really difficult. You're looking into the unknown.
You have monthly operation before and we'll use the same incision as before. And you know that this is not an operation without risk.
We know that even though we have a Christian faith, there's no guarantee that just because we say our prayers, that God is somehow automatically obliged to make Jonathan survive through the operation. I mean, I can go right back to the beginning, and I remember holding Jonathan's hand when he was 6 weeks old so they could take blood. When he was 9, saying, "Daddy, will I die in this operation?" And you think, oh my goodness, yeah, I've thought that. And these questions and these thoughts are there in your mind as you come into this operation. I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from?
I was born with it, but it was given to me by God. Like, it's something I was born with. It's something that God can use that situation for good.
He's never let having a heart problem interfere with his life as much as it depends on him.
I just have to focus on getting to the line so we can start when the gun goes off. He will do the rest.
Oh man, I'm choking up already. This is gonna be shit. I think I better go off camera. Sorry. Whew. Alex, are you there, mate?
I'm here.
Fuck. Oh, sorry. Woo. Didn't know that. I didn't know that was going to hit me like that. Sorry. Phew. Oh shit. Well, look, we better bring on our guest. Sorry, sorry, David.
No problem, guys. No problem at all.
Oh,
no problem at all. I said this at the start, and it's great to be here with you guys, Alex. Good to chat. It's been a while, and I remember the journey premiere, and I remember my brother's moustache on that night as well. And my moustache actually was similar to your moustache actually, but you pulling it off a bit better. But I'll say this, guys. I'm men are often supposed to be these kind of strong front men, and I try and do that a lot of the time. But the thing is, guys, it's good to cry. It really is good to cry. And Lance, let it out, brother, let it out. I've done a lot of it myself, and there's a time for crying, there's a time for joy, and hopefully some of the things I'm going to share today and for people to hear elsewhere as well is things for people to be joyful about. You guys knew my brother as well, which is a huge joy for me that I get to hear a lot of stories from people about the little things, mischievous things he got up to, and some of those things. Some I know and some I don't. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing, and obviously this is part of his memory, and it's a joy for me to talk about it. So yeah.
Well, maybe we should start with, before we get onto the documentary, if we kind of do this in order a little bit. Alex was one of the other producers on the journey. He worked on every single shoot. So after myself, Alex put the most hours into our production. Alex, do you just want to talk about your memories of Johnny and when he came on board? Just after we did the last London shoot.
Yeah.
And we were going into post-production.
I mean, the whole thing was a roller coaster. It was a journey, and I remember there was a sort of flurry of new, fresh blood, like people that came on board. I guess after the first portion, the first shoot, and it was Johnny was obviously a part of that sort of influx of new faces, and he was definitely like somebody who stood out. Like his kind of demeanor was really positive, really friendly, really chatty, but like he had this drive as well. Like he when you like move around in some of these circles and people are giving their time for free, or they're just starting out, or they may not be experienced, they might be able to lend a hand in some way, but they're not necessarily a seasoned producer, they're very green. But like with Johnny, it was like, I feel in good hands. Like I felt like he could take it, and there was definitely a work ethic there, and he was enjoying it as well. It wasn't like stress and big bulging vein on the forehead. It was like it was a pleasure to sort of go on that last portion of the film, the journey of the film, with him. And it was great to see him at the premiere as well. And that was a moment where we all really sort of just got together. And like David was saying, it was joyous. It was a really joyous event.
Yeah. I mean, what I'd say about him is, I mean, we had these 4 new people come on and help out with, I think it was 4 of them. Might have been 3, I can't remember. But of all of them, Johnny was the one who was kind of the most proactive. I wouldn't have to ask him to do things. He would call me and say, Lance, I might be able to get this guy to sponsor the premiere. I might be able to get this. And
that sounds about right.
Yeah. And he had these very constructive things to say when we were doing the post-production and with the edit and stuff like that. But yeah, he was, I can't ever recall a time where he had a negative energy in my dealings with him, which is why I wanted him to come back and work on Pegasus, which Alex worked on with me as well, the big film that never happened. And it wasn't until that phone call that I knew he was ill. because he said, "I'm sorry, I can't, but I've got some significant health issues at the minute." And I was like, "Why? What's going on?" And he didn't really explain it to me in great detail. It was quite, that part of the conversation was quite brief. But I think, Alex, you and I spoke about it shortly after that.
Yeah.
I think,
Right.
and then I think you were a bit more aware of it than I was.
Yeah, well,
Probably because I was dealing with quite a lot at the time.
yeah. Well, obviously, I think we're all Facebook or social media friends. Like, we're connected on social media, so the odd bit of information, might come to the surface. You might sort of box something in the timeline or whatever, the social feed. And I think I probably was aware of something, but it was really like hearing it and us talking about it initially, Lance, that it was just such a shock because, there'd been this going on for obviously a long time, and you wouldn't know if you stepped into the room and met Johnny. You just like hang out, go to the pub or whatever. And my initial thought was, thinking was like it was a sudden thing, just come on. But as you say, like unbeknownst to us, it's a long battle.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, that was one of the things about Johnny, is that because there's often, we call it kind of hidden illness, in that obviously if you've had sadly if you have kind of your leg amputated or broken arm or something, it's very kind of visible. This is what the situation is. But with a heart condition, certainly the way Johnny lived his life, it wasn't something that, well, of course I knew about it. Jonathon was born with congenital heart disease, and he had 6 heart surgeries in his life. But yeah, it was never something that defined him, and that's one of the pieces. That's one of the things about the film, is that it just shows that after challenge after challenge after challenge, you get to the 6th heart surgery, which happened in December 2017, and it's I guess some people joining, pardon the pun, the journey. At that point, maybe it did seem out of the blue, but obviously it was a significant surgery. All of Jonathon's surgeries have been corrective, so it was kind of as he was growing, as things happened, it then was another surgery. It wasn't like kind of emergency situations every time. Well, there was probably one that was emergency, but apart from that, and so yeah, it's totally understandable, Alex and Lance, that would have been the case, because it wasn't something that, although we did a lot of ambassadorial work with the British Heart Foundation, raising awareness for them, it wasn't something that was like Jonathon's identity. First and foremost, he was like, a brother, twin, a friend, exceptional producer and creative, and and then of course he had multiple hats, like we all do, and that was one of them. But I'll just say this: one of the things I find remarkable about Johnny, and I've said this many times, is that Jonathon had a very rare combination of detail but creativity, and you often get one or the other, and it was a real, Jonathon was my creative partner, and in many things, and so it was a real, obviously that was one of the huge losses, apart from everything else, that you lose that attention to detail. He certainly had that detail that sharpened me. Let's leave it at that. So yeah.
So you and Johnny were twins.
Yep.
I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like, losing your twin, especially as when I was a kid, all I kept going on about was that I wanted a brother. I mean, fortunately, I have Alex, so he's more than made up for that. But yeah, indeed. I mean, so this was, you didn't have the same health issue, but it was something that was kind of apparent from his birth. Is that right?
Yeah, Lance. Yeah, I mean, it is more common in twins that there are kind of complications, but
Right.
but yeah, I'm not going to go into all the medical detail now. But when he was born, they did some tests, and probably now they would have picked it up in the womb, But actually, with Johnny, when we were born in 1988, he was 34 when he left us to glory. You know, we were when we were born, it was only really kind of for 2 or 3 days post birth that they were like, well, actually, there's something not quite right here. You know, as you can see in some of the pictures there in the kind of loop for our website, you can see that Johnny was a lot smaller, and we had some complications, and so yeah, it was actually probably 2 or 3 days when they thought, right, let's get him home. that was the thing, right? Jonathan staying in for a bit longer, and then 6 weeks in, had to have his first heart surgery, which was 50-50 whether he'd live or not make it. And so the film talks more about that. My father and mother do a great, phenomenal job narrating some of the bits, and of course, me and my brother can't narrate in the film because we weren't able to speak at that point. But yeah, it is. Yeah, we were born, and then that's when it began for him. I was medically healthy and fit in that respect, and yeah, Jonathan's kind of journeyed through that. I'm not going to say too much more because it follows in from the film.
Sure.
That's all that.
So, I mean, without divulging too much of the content of the story, and we've got the thrust of it, and I also want to come back and touch upon something that you raised later, which is your faith, which I know is very important to you and must have been a real rock in terms of getting you through this. When did the idea for the documentary first come about, and was it Johnny's idea? And tell us about that.
Yeah, great question, Lance. And essentially we'd done this. We were planning this campaign around Jonathan's 6th heart surgery, it ended up being at the end of 2017, but there was never kind of a clear, right, this is the date. It was actually the story behind the date of the film is just crazy in itself. And obviously we do a long Q&A and at the end of the film talking about that as well. But basically in 2016, when we kind of had the idea, the kind of concept of the campaign, which was called 6 Times Open, which was kind of raising £100,000 for British Heart Foundation, raising some awareness and money for them to essentially raise awareness. And essentially out of that there were multiple kind of outputs. There was the campaign, the awareness, the money, but then also on the back of that there was the film. And it was something that Jonathan came up with. He was like, yeah, we need to do a film, we need to tell this story. And then outside of that, we then decided, right, we need to build a team. So actually on the launch event for the film in 2016, we actually had a director with us there. He didn't end up directing the film in the end because we had 2 or 3 that we chatted to and for various reasons couldn't kind of make it. So so basically Jonathan's idea, and then we kind of brainstormed it and decided that let's start documenting this, and then build the team around that. Obviously from various contacts in the industry, we pulled together a team, and our great director Christian Young, who's from the Northeast, he came on board, and then we built a team around him, and with some phenomenal partners. So as you know, guys, these things they're not one-man bands; they're huge team efforts, and it's a testament to just 3 of us being on the call. I mean, I could have had about 20 of our team on, but it really is a team thing, as you know, and essentially that's how it came about. And there was the documentary essentially covers the preparation during and recovery of Jonathan's 6th heart surgery, and then more recently, since Jonathan left us in April 23, me and the team essentially have added 5 minutes to the end of it that kind of documents what happened essentially, and the fact that it wasn't the surgery that went wrong, which is why Jonathan's not with us. Actually, the surgery was a huge success, and you'll see that. Obviously, everyone knows that. It's on socials and stuff. But Jonathan then had 5 years of fantastic, hardcore pushing life to the full, and with COVID in the middle there, and then the unthinkable happened. So it was Jonathan's brainchild, and then as a twin and creative partner, we obviously brought lots of things to the table together, from partnerships to sponsorships to all our clients and friends, and it was a real team joy, and the premiere is going to be part of the icing on the cake. So.
I remember my last words to him were, and I do remember them quite clearly when he told me, and I was kind of shocked, and I said, well, if anybody can beat this, I know you can. Sorry, Alex, you were going to jump in there.
Right, I was going to ask, like, what was it like?
Sorry, you're just cracking up there, Alex.
Yeah, Alex, your audio's cutting out, mate.
Sorry. Is that any better?
It's a little bit better. Just ask your question.
Yeah, what was it like the process of making the film? Obviously, it's a very personal issue that's close to both of you, and I'm sure by the end of it, if not before, the whole team. But what was the process of? I mean, it must have been. I'm imagining it was poignant, but also I'm imagining lots of sort of beautiful moments, and when it all came together, and the sort of the excitement and exhaustion of finishing a shoot on a particular day.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that, maybe?
Yeah, man. I mean, a whole plethora. I like to try and drop in interesting words. A plethora of emotions throughout the making, and we started making it in 2016, and then basically was finished in probably 2018. So 2 years to shoot, and then around that, and then it was a 2 year edit, and in 2020 we released the trailer. So I mean, for me and my brother, as a creative output as producers, Jonathon had a very heavy hand on. Well, I'd like to say we both had a very heavy hand in direction of the film, and actually that was why it was so important that we had the right director. And Christian did a fantastic job working alongside us and bringing his creative genius to it as well. Amazing DOPs, Jamie Corn, alongside amazing commercial partners, which again, as you guys know, wouldn't be done without those favors from amazing people. We could probably all start listing favors we've had from different people right now, but the list would be too long. But yeah, I mean, Alex, it was incredibly awesome in some respects to have done a film with your brother. I mean, we did many commercials, we did many music videos and ads and various projects together. But to say you've made a film together with your brother, and it's documenting both of you in this intimate journey of what it's like from both sides. That was one of the key things. To show people what it's like from both sides of being twins, the patient and the person who's actually supporting the patient and the family around them. And that's something you just don't get in things these days. You often get the story of the person, or you get a wider shot. You don't really get the intimate. And some of the shots in the premiere and in the film, we've had various press and various experts watch the film, and they're just like, these shots aren't seen anywhere else really because of the intimacy of the subject, but also because of our relationship and Jonathon's relationship specifically with the surgeons and the hospital, having been there for 34 years in different guises. That was basically what allowed us to open the door to even make the film. If you don't have buy-in from the one of the main guys, Asif Hassan, who is the heart surgeon himself, who knows my brother inside and out, quite literally. If you don't have that buy-in, game over. And so it's because, as you know, so much of these things is about getting permission and sign-offs, and the getting sign-off throughout the whole hospital and the NHS backing and everything. Absolute minefield, but worth it, and allowed us to tell the story. And I think the final thing I'll say on this is, well, two things. One, because Jonathon was actually the subject, he could sign off the fact that he was wanting his surgery to be filmed. It's not often you get that. It's not often you get someone who actually is okay with them having a documentation of chest being opened. And also a surgeon who's willing to have that documented if something goes wrong. That's the big thing in itself. And then the second thing I'd say is through the filming, Jonathon and I, of course we were super close anyway, but there were things that he shared and I shared in the filming that neither of us had really vocalized to each other before. And it wasn't that we wouldn't have wasn't that we wouldn't or that we were hiding anything. It was just until you ask those questions in front of camera, you just don't think of sharing them really. And so there were moments where I was sat just off camera and just was like, wow, I didn't realize that. And things that he was like, when I was breaking down, he was breaking down. And so it's it was incredibly emotional, incredibly special to be able to do that. And then the whole kind of the way the whole actual date arrived. I mean, essentially we had a very close relationship with the hospital, and so they knew that we had a lot of planning to do, team all around the country, family all around the world. And so when we at Christmas 2017, when we essentially were on tenterhooks, we got the date, everything else was cancelled up. Jordan's operation was a go. With 4 days to go, we got the team up to Newcastle. My family all flew into the UK from around the world, and we pressed play on filming. And as you guys will know, like it's a very big difference filming kind of when you can plan everything and kind of do 10 different shots before and after. The actual during surgery was very much there's only so much you can plan. You've just got to follow the members. And I have one way of dealing with my brother being in surgery. I was in the hospital the whole time, 12 hours. My sister decided to go somewhere. My parents went to their usual place, the beach. So we had cameras on everyone, and just let it go. I think one of the biggest challenges for me and Jonathon was because we were also have made content before. It was kind of that thing of switching off planning and actually going, no. I mean, there's one very poignant moment that I'll never forget where basically we're pushing Jonathon into theatre and he's looking around going, bro, we need another camera over there. And I'm like, John, this is not the time. We go. There's only one focus, and it's that. And I think it was that split switch. It was really hard because Jonathon was so creative and detailed, and we knew the angle, we knew the direction we wanted this to go. And so, but at some point, as you just that's why you have an amazing team, because you give people that permission to say, right, now it's in your hands, off you go. And specifically, there were some shots in the film. I mean, we had amazing DOP Jamie Corn. He was in the theatre the whole time. I was in for about an hour and a half watching the surgery, but Jamie Corn was in for the whole time, the whole surgery, and he didn't have any time to. He didn't have any time to learn what it was like or prepare himself for what it was like to be in see someone's chest open. It's not something you just go and warm up for at a sports match and come in. So,
how long was the full surgery?
It was around 8 to 12 hours. I think 8 to 10 hours. I think, and of course in the film it only shows snapshots, but it there were moments where they had to. It went on longer than it should have done, essentially. The film will show more on that. But yeah.
So you've just had a premiere of the finished documentary in Newcastle. Obviously,
yes.
Johnny would have got to have seen the finished film minus the 5 minutes that you've added on.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah. The first time you watched it completed, did the two of you sit down together alone and share that experience by yourselves?
We did watch it together. Jonathon was in every frame in terms of the edit with our, production team and the guys. The detail, was paramount, and especially with his, medical background as well. So basically, Jonathon had his hand on every frame, which is why we decided we weren't going to change anything of the actual film. Once he went, because we had signed that off. The 5 minutes extra was, I actually found that huge. It was down to me, of course, but I found it hugely weight bearing emotionally to just finish that piece and to make sure, essentially we've got some beautiful pictures and text, telling that final bit of story, and hugely emotional because you just want to make it right. You've got a lot of weight on that, And so, yeah, Jonathon, we'd finished it. We'd obviously reviewed it back and forth for a couple of years, and then we sat down and watched it. And my parents then watched it with a very poor internet connection in Africa. And and then really before the premiere, there was probably 10 people that have seen it. And then, we had 130 at Newcastle, and there's going to be about 80 to 90 in the Curzon Soho in London in a few weeks, and and then it'll be going into film festivals. So incredibly emotional, Lance. Yeah,
this is the footage from the Newcastle premiere. I'll keep that muted for the moment. Is there a book that comes with the film? Because someone's holding something that looks like a book.
Yeah, that's not a book. That's kind of a letter that I wrote from me and Jonathon to everyone who comes to the premiere, and it's essentially a letter from me and him that were kind of me and his words as a kind of message to everyone who sees it for the first time. And again, it took me a while to write that. It's only short, but it when you have the weight on it of the kind of things you want to communicate intimately, it's So there is that at the premiere, and it was a hugely fulfilling evening. But I think one of the things that was heavy about the premiere of many was, Jonathon and I we'd planned the London and Newcastle events. We just hadn't got around to, getting them organised before 2023. So it really was something, even build up to the premiere in London in a few weeks, 13th September. We planned it all together, and so it's just kind of pressing play. But one of the hardest things was wanting it to be right for my parents. Of course, we had lots of partners, industry partners, and friends there, and family. But having your parents there and making sure it's kind of right for them, and that they feel it's done justice to, was a big thing, and I felt very, very happy with that, and everyone meeting Christian and Jamie, the key team and stuff. So, yeah.
How was the premiere received?
Yeah, it was received really well. I think, of course, I felt it was a strong piece. Having Christian and Jamie, our director and DOP there, we did a Q&A post. I think a lot of people there had never really understood how a film was made, and so for a lot of people, it was like, wow, we didn't realize that was how you got that shot. For example, you guys will all know that if people could only see the behind the scenes, they'd see the immense pain and anguish people go to get certain shots. But yeah, it was very well received, Lance, and in the people I spoke with, and lots of excitement around London as well, and actually very special being in that cinema, because there's a few premieres we'd done in the Newcastle one previously, not our films, but attended, and it was incredibly emotional being there with lots of family and friends. So yeah,
I can imagine. Alex, did you want to ask any more questions?
Well, I've probably got about 20 million questions, but I'm sort of
just a couple will suffice.
I'm sort of just in awe of it. It seems I can't quite place a question right now. I mean, the thing that comes to my mind is what a life, and what a time capsule that just bottles up, your brother's life, Johnny's life. What a tribute, and I mean, it's so funny because it paints such a portrait of him, even in the trailer as well. You get such a sense of that's definitely the Johnny I remember. There's that particular shot where he's shaking the surgeon's hand, sort of firm grip. Yeah, that's I remember.
Yeah, a lot of people who knew Johnny will, and actually I mentioned this in Jonathon's Thanksgiving at the Newcastle Cathedral in May 2023 when we celebrated his life, and one of the key defining things of Johnny was his handshake, and that once you had a handshake from Johnny, you're going to remember it. And one of my friends who was at the Thanksgiving actually laughed out loud because he was so emotive as to that, because he actually shook his hand and crushed his ring right into his other finger and actually was in pain. And he was like, "Yeah, I can relate." So yeah, it's yeah. What can I say? I mean, it is amazing to have this piece, remembering, remembering my brother, and for me, there's many twins out there that I've connected with, and we did throughout the whole campaign, 6 times open, and being able to kind of hear from others how it's going to encourage them and others to be encouraged is really important. I think few of the aims of the film was, of course, to tell an amazing story of resilience, hope, and encouragement, but also to inspire people to go, well, actually, your situation shouldn't define your whole life, and you play the green in front of you. And of course, there were things that Johnny wanted to do, and one of them was ice hockey, one of them was climbing, skiing, cycling. There were many that would say, "No, don't do that. It's too much of a risk." Well, actually, you've only got one life, and I think for Johnny, he did push it to the serious max, and it shows that in the film. And there was one time when he kept saying to the surgeon, "When can I get back on the ice rink?" And he's like, "Well, if you want to get back on the ice rink, get back on whenever you want, but just remember, I've spent 13 hours over your body in the last 8 weeks." So so it's a constant. Johnny was constantly pushing the barriers of, what can I do and actually fulfill my life and enjoy it. Ultimately, the film essentially was also to inspire other parents and young people who were having surgery themselves or having to walk through their children with it as well, to go, well, actually, Joel was at the front end curve of a lot of this surgery throughout his life, from when he was born to 34 years old. And actually, parents can then see, wow, my son could have a healthy, thriving life. Again, a lot of it, my brother would posit, would be mindset. It's about your mind, how resilient you are. Do you want it? And actually, it's a testament to Jonathon that, 6 days after his 6th heart surgery, I took him to one of our dear friends' funerals, who sadly passed away. And, everyone was saying, "Johnny, why are you here?" And he was like, "Well, I want to show my face at my dear friend's funeral." But Johnny had only just, come out of his own heart surgery. Everyone had been following it. And so it's that kind of thing where it showed the measure of the man. He really put a lot of effort into his other people as well, but also wanted to show that resilience was an important aspect of life. And it's something I'm hugely challenged by.
Yeah, that's very much him. Funnily enough, you've kind of answered it. My next question was really going to be, what were you hoping for the film to achieve? And I think you've really defined that already by your last words. What was the most? I mean, as Alex said, it's I've had a lot of very interesting guests on this channel. You're number 74, so 73 before you. They've all had very interesting lives and contributed something creatively to the culture of the world, basically. And a lot of them are sort of independents like yourself, which is what our channel's about. But the project that you've done here is on a different level. It's quite hard to fully process how challenging it must have been to make a film about your twin brother. I just can't, going through this, I can't quite get my head around it. Like Alex said, what do you think was the biggest challenge of this process for you?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, Lance. It was obviously with a film that you're, of course, as I mentioned, it's a whole team that are making the film, and I think I can speak on Christian Young's behalf, our director. He openly shared this at the premiere. I'll probably share this again. Is that the one of the things that he found hardest was that, you know, when you've got a team, but it's actually a real story that you're filming. It's not just a kind of again, I say just, I don't mean to undermine any other story that, you know, our creative minds, I believe, God given, and we're to use them. But this is a story that is like, it's a real thing. And so I think the pressure he had of working with us to accurately communicate that, number one, but I think also to be really sensitive to the fact that, well, actually, you don't want to get in the way of just documenting a real situation. It was that kind of, there's kind of, in a sense, two aspects to the film. There's the staged, hey, preparation of, I've got my fitness preparation, I've got my mental preparation, all this kind of stuff. The actual then docu of the operation, which you can't have any input in. I'm trying to be a fly on the wall here. And it's that trying to creatively fuse documentary. And I think the film is you know, again, I would say this, but I think from other people's words as well, it's a masterpiece in bringing the creative, you know, beautiful shots, beautiful cinematography alongside that documentary of real grit and storytelling. And yeah, I think it's been done beautifully. So I think that was one of the hardest parts for the general making of the film. But I think the final thing I'd say is just having to jump to attention. Like everything was, the actual operation was 4 days, go, we've got the date, everything else is cancelled, we're going. And you know, there's a lot, as you know, there's a lot of stuff to have ready. And so, you know, that's testament to my brother who pulled it all off with an amazing team, and then, you know, had his 6th heart surgery in the middle of it. I mean, it's not often that happens. So yeah, and the resilience of my brother is I've not seen many others who there are others who would match him, but I'm challenged to find them on a daily basis. So yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, like, you know, I just gave an interview on somebody else's podcast, and one of the things I said, we were talking about producers, and one of the things, comments I made was, how many producers does it take to change a light bulb? Change it yourself, it's faster. And that applies to quite a lot of producers that I've met, but there are a small handful that really rolled up their sleeves and got stuck in, and Johnny is definitely of that caliber. And you know, I remember saying to Alex on more than one occasion when we were working on one project or another, you know, and we were talking about possible producers, Johnny's name was always in the mix, wasn't it? Always. And I don't think we realized quite how, I mean, he wouldn't have wanted it to be perceived that way, but from an outsider looking in now, had no idea sort of how complex these challenges would have been for him, even though he wouldn't have wanted them to be viewed that way. Yeah, I miss him actually quite a bit. So yeah. So what's next for the film?
Well, yeah, the next phase again is up to Johnny, as you probably already have understood, is had pretty much the rest of it all planned out. So because that was the kind of person he was. But yeah, it's we did discuss the premieres, we discussed the festivals, and I think the next phase with our team is we're going to be putting it probably from January into film festivals for a year, and then we'll be already having discussions and conversations around distribution. And so very much looking forward to very much looking forward to seeing that, you know, get out into the public domain, you know, hopefully, you know, of course entering lots of film festivals where, you know, we can have some great conversations and you know, people see it themselves as well. And then of course on top of that, looking to get it far and wide post that. So yeah, watch this space. Everything will be kind of contributed and documented and communicated via our website, 6timesopenfilm.com. And then on top of that, throughout all the socials, which you just have to type 6 Times Open Film in, and you'll see all that. But yeah, no, I miss my brother, and I miss many things about him. But one of the big things is just that creative partnership that we had, where we just kind of sharpen each other. And there's a line and piece in the Bible where it talks about iron sharpening iron, and my brother certainly had iron and, if not steel, running right through him. But I certainly miss that as a huge amount. You know, he'd be right here, sat next to me, having this conversation about the film. He would be obviously in front of me, stood next to me on stage at the premieres, and yeah, I just know that it's a great honor and privilege, and to be able to share the story. And I know that's what he would have wanted, what we discussed. It's very challenging at times. It's tough, but you know, it's important to do tough things in life. It's important to do tough things in life, and it's an honor and joy to share the story of his legacy.
Well, before we wrap up, and we'll show the film from the Journey premiere, which Johnny is in, of course, and I think there might even be a shot of you there, David. You mentioned your faith a couple of times. You were raised in a Christian family. How I imagine that's played quite a key part in getting you through this, because you're certainly being stronger about it than I am. And he was your brother, and you know, for me, he was a good work colleague who I knew well. But you're dealing with it better than I am. So
yeah, well, faith plays a huge part for me and Jonathon as well. And when you see the film, you'll there'll be a lot more made clear on that as well. But yeah, I mean, Lance, I can assure you this: there's been many hours of tears and stuff, and there's a lot of introspection and retrospection been done. And but yeah, no, in terms of my faith, I can share that, you know, my brother shared the same faith. He was a devout follower of Jesus, Christian, and you know, we talked about the big questions of life a lot together. He was a big thinker. He pulled a lot of quotes out, and yeah, he was a deep man, but also had a great sense of humor.
He did. He made me laugh many times.
He wasn't able to handle some of my banter, but he which ended up kind of with a wrestle on the floor. But yeah, being 110 kg, I often kind of came a bit on top. But no, he had a strong faith. I have a strong faith as well, and it was really, as I said, the film talks more about that. But anyone who knew Johnny would know that his principles of integrity and you know, honesty and you know, loyalty to people was very important, and you know, doing things right. You know, there were many times he would do, you know, the Bible often talks about doing things as if no one was watching, you know, as if only God was watching, and he was that detailed person. You know, he did have a lot of detail there, and many areas which I lacked. So that's why we're a team. Can't do everything. And but ultimately, Lance and Alex, yeah, you know, we believe that, you know, Jesus, you know, came to have a real relationship with us. You know, God loves us, and that Jonathon is in a place we call heaven right now, and that's my opinion and view, and it was Jonathon's as well. And it wasn't because he was a good person. It was ultimately we're all flawed people in many ways. I can speak for myself and my brother specifically there, but yeah, when I say that, I say that because, you know, we believe that, you know, God sent His Son Jesus to the cross so that He could take the punishment for us, so that we could come into a relationship with Him and have what we didn't deserve, and which is a relationship with Him, and actually the peace that I've received through having faith in God and going through my life in this way, you know, from a young age, not without its turbulence. I can definitely say that. And Johnny, certainly without his challenges, you know, he could have many times gone, screw this isn't for me, God, what are you doing here? And in fact, that was part of Johnny's story. And actually, when you see the film, you'll hear that. But life is not life without suffering. We're all on this call. We've all had suffering of some sort. And in fact, I know the journey is part of that. Tells part of that story for you, Lance, as well. And
Indeed.
Ultimately, life is not here to be perfect, but it's about who we're standing on while we're going through those challenges and what we have faith in. I can tell you, there's very few things in this world that I have faith in. If you just look around, you'll probably see why. It's probably there's different podcasts for those kind of conversations. That's essentially it. And the peace that I've received and the confidence and the knowledge of who I'm putting my life on, and is what's got me through and what's got my family through and many people in our network, and it's what got Johnny through to where he, when he left us. So yeah, that's it in its simplest form.
Well, on behalf of myself and Jason Flemyng, Alex, of course, and the rest of the production team, I just want to thank you. Sorry, Alex, would you jump in, mate? Finish that for me, would you?
Yeah, I mean, so always things.
Oh, your audio's going. You're making me laugh, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to thank you for his contribution, because our film would have been so much harder to finish without that team coming in towards the end, and in the post-production, which actually took as long as the film took to shoot. And also just know that, like, I might sound like a bit of a mess right now, but I never really had a chance to process his loss, as I said to you earlier. Just know that we're all here for you as well, and you can pick up the phone and call me for one of those philosophical conversations at any time, which Alex and I often have ourselves.
Yeah,
and I that might be of little comfort right now, but yeah, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the whole team when I say that. And it was a real pleasure, not just to have worked with your brother, but to know him. So I think on that note, we'll show the premiere of The Journey, unless, Alex, you want to say anything else. And Alex, you edited this video.
Alex, you speak up it.
Yeah, your audio, mate.
I've probably got my thumb over the.
Yeah, there you go. I can hear you now.
Yeah, just curious, really. Like, obviously this documentary is, it's the moment of this documentary. You're still pushing it, you're still promoting it. It's fresh. I just wondered, like, you've lost, obviously, sadly, your creative partner and your brother, but life goes on for you. What's on your radar? Like, what's next creatively as a solo creator?
Actually, it's good that you asked that, because I meant to ask that question and I forgot.
Yeah, well, basically, what I took a year out, from April till basically April 24, to kind of reflect and think about things, and then, as my brother would have said, he said, crack on, and so yeah, a lot of that has been, I've been doing a lot of that, but also deciding what to crack on with. And there were some things we worked on together, some things we did separately, and it's a real joy to be able to continue some of the things that we both worked on, and continue building his legacy as well. And I see Jonathon in so many things I do, all over the place, and so there's little things around, and I do believe God has given me a great community, a great network of people. Well, I don't believe it, I know it, of people who are both in the creative, business, charity, adventure world that inspire me, that, of course, will never replace my brother, but are people who are inspiring and also challenging and there for me as well. So it's it's a real joy to kind of have those communities, and I count myself very, very blessed for that. And in terms of the next project, I think that's a whole new separate podcast. But there's a lot of things in the irons in the fire. But the main thing right now is just getting the film out there and doing justice to the work that my brother and many others put into it, and having a small part to play in the launching of it as well. So excited about the premiere. Yeah.
Thank you for that, David. For everyone watching, do make sure you check out the links. They are all below. You can go and read about the film on the website. Follow it. It's got its own page on Instagram. The London premiere is sold out, but there are going to be other screenings at festivals. All the information will be on the 6 Times Open websites. David, thank you for coming and talking so eloquently about Johnny, more than I was able to do, and also allowing me a space to talk with you about him, because since he passed, I haven't spoken to anyone about it at all. This is the first time I've really had a chance to have a conversation. Perhaps this wasn't the most appropriate forum, but I think it just goes to show the impact that your brother had on people's lives and what he meant to them. And, like I said earlier, I'm really grateful that I knew him, and I'm really grateful he's one of the people that I got to collaborate with. And, and he'll always be part of that journey of mine, pun fully intended.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. And I mean, it was obviously great to be at the film. Jonathon talked to me a lot about some of his other film projects, and and the journey was obviously one that he wanted me to be at the premiere at, and so he invited me along. And there was many that he was involved in that I didn't go to, and some others that I did go to. So it was a real joy to be there and see some of the work at the end that he was able to help with, and meet you guys as well. So a joy to have met you guys when we did.
Well, David, if you ever need to come back to promote or speak about any creative project that you're working on, know that the Outcast Creative channel is here for you, and we'll always be happy to support you in your creative endeavors.
Thanks, guys.
Alex, thanks for coming on, mate. Thank God you were here. And, I will we'll end this with showing the video of the Journey premiere, which is actually edited by Alex Tabrizi.
Kick off your shoes, let's go and make a memory.
I'm very excited and I'm very happy for Lance. Because tonight's the night after 2 long years and more. 2.5.
I just want to see a completion. I think for Lance as well. So let's see the life of the journey. But really, this is just the beginning of the end. Because we made the film, hopefully it'll look great. And now we've got to sell it.
What you need.
This is just unreal.
There he is.
Yeah.
I feel my notes saying greeting is about lots of people.
I have so much respect and admiration for Lance for just keeping on doing, because he's a very, very talented man.
It's what you need. It's in the air we breathe. It's what you need. It's what you want.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Very, very excited. So pleased for Lance. He's worked his bum off to do this. So see it here, the premiere. It's great.
This is going to be the first time I see my work put together with a score, graded really nicely, up on a big screen.
Tomorrow, forever tomorrow. Forever tomorrow.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy with that.
I'm very happy. We love Greece anyway, so all the things we saw was just great.
It's got me thinking. It really has got me thinking about what people are going through in their life.
And all done on Tuesday. You can associate yourself with a character.
What a tremendous achievement.
I found it incredibly moving. Really good strong script.
Fantastic.
It's a real time film.
What you want it to be.